The SketchUp model that you see here was developed by bringing information from gCADPlus into the SketchUp environment, and I'd like to demonstrate, not with this model, but how that's done. So let's switch our attention from SketchUp and move to gCADPlus. So here's a design for a similar sort of but slightly larger courtyard. This one features a pool running along one side of a dwelling. So how do we get this base information into SketchUp? Well, this drawing or this design has been developed using some of the tools in the gCADPlus drop-down menu. We've generated a plant schedule. We've labelled using the Smart Label tool some of the plant symbols there. Now what we don't want to do is to move a complex model into SketchUp. We don't need the lighting which runs along the outside. We don't need irrigation layout, and we don't even need the symbols. So what I'm going to do is to use the layers stack and turn off the lighting layer, the irrigation layer, and that will do for the moment, and let's see the result of that. That should simplify things, but the main information is on a layer called plant symbol. So now the symbols are out of the way. We can add those later because we've got little tags that remind us from the plant schedule information that's here. By the way, there must be an error in one of the symbols there, because we've turned off that layer, one blob of colour remains. But from the code there, we can identify the plants that are going to go in here. Grevillea, Roseanne is going to go along there. An Acacia pycnantha, one particular variety of Ariadne, is going to go in there. So if we can get this information into SketchUp, we can start to build a model quite easily. We don't need all the plant information. That's only going to slow things down. So let's go to layout, and here's a layout. So we want to take this information and put it as a graphic entity into SketchUp in top view without any perspective on. And for that I'm going to use tools and make raster, and I'm going to make, for the sake of argument here, because I've been rehearsing it, I'm going to write to a file called temp on the desktop, and I've adjusted the resolution so that I get an image that's close to 10,000 is the limit of pixels in either direction. So let's say we'll use a rectangle and we'll pick the area, so we'll get an image from there to there. So we've got our plant schedule and we've got the base information. That's pushed the size of the raster image to 11,000. Now I think you'll find that will fail. I'll just demonstrate. Click OK. Can't rasterize. So let's right click and repeat that, and we'll drop this to say 400, and 400 drops it to 89. That will be fine, and we'll go OK. So the file is now being written to the desktop, and the next stage is to bring that information into the SketchUp environment. Well, here we are in the SketchUp environment. We've configured a template. We happen here to be working with decimal feet as the base unit, but we could easily be working in millimeters as our base unit. We would just set a SketchUp template appropriately. And we do have a layer called L-image, and we've got the layers that are in the drawing showing. There are only two of them, layer 0 and L-image. Entity information and components are also up. So what we're going to do now is place that image file that we just generated. So I'm going to pick import, and we're going to pick that temp JPEG file, and remember that we had previously set a top view. We can move this image and drop it at the origin of the drawing, and then we can set some sort of arbitrary size. So now we're looking down on the plan, and I hope you can see that there's enough information there for us to trace and build three-dimensional information, and even enough information to read some of the codes there for putting our plant symbols in a little later. Although I should perhaps have made the image a little darker, but for the moment we can work with it. We can zoom in and actually detect that text it's not crystal clear, but it will do for this particular exercise. The first step is to scale this image so that we get full size. You work in SketchUp full size just like you do in gCADPlus. Well, I've left one dimension that's taken from the model from gCADPlus, so this should read 26 feet, the length of this small courtyard area. So if I pick the measure tool now and I zoom in and pick up that point there, the start of the fence, then zoom out and zoom in again at the top and carefully, and you can see that I'm not able to get exactly to the end point that I want to get the 26 feet. It's actually reading 6'5". I actually need to go to model info and just up the precision. If I up the precision to 2 decimal places and I close this and return here, can you see now I can get what I want? So I hit there, and down in the dialog box I type 26 and hit enter. Do we want to resize the model? And yes we do. Let's zoom extents and see the whole model. And now we've got a paver in here that's supposed to measure 2 feet by 2 feet. We're in the middle of the measure tool now. Yes we are. So let's go from one side to the other, and it's in fact 2 feet 1 inch or so. So the image is now correctly sized. We have a full size model. The next step that I think is useful is to move this selected image onto its own layer. So that's the purpose of the L-image layer we've built into our template. So up in this little box here we'll click L-image. So now that image sits on its own layer. Now we can return to a perspective view and set the camera at perspective, and we can pan around, and I'm relatively happy with that. At this point I'll probably remove the little size icon and we're ready to build our model. Now you'll notice that there's a ornamental pond running along the side near the building there, and we'll want to put a rectangle over that and push that down. To that end, I think it's a useful thing to do at this stage to select the image, and we'll just move it up a short distance, maybe a foot above the horizontal plane, and then we can push the pond down quite easily, and it will go down underneath the layer, the level that the image file is on. So I'd pick the move tool and come down in here and just move it. Can you see I'm moving the whole image file up, and we'll type 1.0 and we finish at that point. So now we've got the image sitting slightly proud from the surface, and that will give us an opportunity at a later time to push the interior of that pond down. So I hope that gives you some idea of how you can quickly and easily move an image from gCADPlus into SketchUp and then scale the image appropriately, and then we start building on that base to create our SketchUp model.